Are you going to get vaccinated?
It depends. It depends. I would like that before.
What depends?
Well, first of all, if it is mandatory, it is not good. The last is my option, how I decide to take care of my health or not.
Do you think it shouldn't be mandatory?
Obviously, because this state is going to force me to get vaccinated.
We are in a pandemic.
Well, you could build another security system under which, if you are responsible for infecting someone, you would have to evaluate the cost to see what then and she caused. In principle, let's say I do not cost anything to the state, because if I have a health problem, I have a prepayment. Therefore, it is a problem of mine and the prepayment. How do I fix it? Point one. Point two, not only that, but it is also interesting, because I am not clear that all the conditions are given. I'm not clear that all the conditions are given on whether the vaccine is good or not. So again, I would love, let's say, that all the militants that this government has first test the vaccines with their children. Then, after they test it with their children, if we are clear that they work, then I would be willing to test it. And obviously to vaccinate all the infectious diseases. All the infectious diseases, right? Those who generated this disaster, that when we told them that they were doing a disaster, they went out to chase us with the official propaganda apparatus.
Javier, what doubts do you have about the vaccine? Or what vaccine do you have doubts about? Do you have doubts about the Russian vaccine, the American vaccine, the British vaccine?
No, let's say, it seems to me that the times are not the times that are usually seen in these types of situations. Therefore, it seems very hasty. So, and since we are facing a government of thieves, I cannot roll out that this is part of another robbery of this government, because this government...
But how would it be to steer with the vaccines?
Well, let's say perhaps the vaccines are a purchase that the state is going to make, you say. For example, yes, or linked with people who have arrived to the government that is suddenly linked to some process. Let's say was some vaccine. So I say there are many shady things. Let's see, this government is a criminal government. It is a criminal government economically, and it is the longest and most prevalent pandemic in the world. And it destroyed the economy. In that huge destruction it made of the economy, it left many people without income. That, in reality, is already a crime against humanity, in line with Article 7, incisive K of the Rome Statute of 1998. Because if you are left without a base of support, that is where you become a slave. Or, alternatively, if you die of hunger. To put it in some way. First point. Second point, it did not stay there. When it was claimed by President Alberto Fernandez, on the issue of remuneration, he said, no, ours is not touched. That is, while unilaterally it left many people without income, it left more than 3.6 million people without work. It sent more than 20,000 companies to the brink. Yes, after having done all that disaster, theirs was not touched. But not only that, proudly they distributed 8,970,000 IVs. Yes, they said, look at the effort that the state makes. The sacrifice of the state. What sacrifice? If they financed it with monetary missions, with which they broke the heads of those who have the least, with inflationary tax. Yes, but he said another thing. But that does not stay there. Faced with the disaster, let's say, that took place in the health plan,
You had to.
what did the word do? Because here is the serious thing. This is the serious thing, Facundo. This is the very serious thing. That is, this came with 4 months of delay. That is, we already saw what was happening in Europe. What we were saying, what was going to happen. It was not because we were geniuses. We were not enlightened. Yes, what we were looking at was what had happened in the rest of the world and how it was fought. In fact, the scientific method is a model called CIR. It is known since the middle of the 20th century. What happened is a scandal.
So what was happening?
Now, during 57 years of democracy, the scientists, they sold us. With democracy, you eat, you live, you educate, and you cure. Well, it seems that the Carajo is not cured, because the entire health system was collapsed. And if it was not, thanks to the private sector, and thanks to the social works, the system would have collapsed much worse. Even so, we have about 35,000 dead. In other words, a disaster. Well, that's why we are between. We would be the 4th country in the world. with more deaths per million inhabitants. Today we would be surpassed by Italy, but Italy into the second wave. In the second wave, with which a disaster. So, and how did the world fight? Those who were successful with massive testing. Do you know what the problem was with massive testing, Hakando? That they could not steal, because that was an international lawsuit. So, a rover imported them to send people to jail in order not to stop stealing. And I apologize for the term. No. Yes, but the sons of Rome are whores.